Yassa, Ziggy here, and welcome to the finance segment Money Does Grow on Trees on GRTV. On the show we cover all things money and we welcome your email questions. The question that's selected to be covered on the show will receive a free copy of my book Money Does Grow on Trees. Today's question comes from Val in Bentley, Victoria, and she writes, Ziggy, love your show. My question relates to wills. My friends say I need a will and a power of attorney. They refer to it as estate planning, but I don't understand what this is. Thanks, Val. What a great question. Well, what is estate planning? Now, you've heard the saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Well, when it comes to estate planning, the saying is more like, where there's a will, there's a relative. Estate planning is an integral part of the financial planning process. Yet all too often, estate planning is seen simply as having a will. However, it's far more complex than this. It involves family structures and beneficiaries, as well as powers of attorney, trusts, taxation issues, and potentially business succession, guardianship provisions, and superannuation and insurance arrangements. The aim of estate planning is to ensure that the right assets are transferred to the appropriate people at the appropriate time. Now, the importance of estate planning within the context of an overall financial plan has increased over the past decade. The ageing population and government's push for a self-funded retirement have led to an increasing need for quality advice and guidance on estate planning issues. Now, not only do financial planners need to advise those passing the wealth on, but also those receiving the wealth, that is, the beneficiaries. The emotional point to make is that a good will, which covers most of the below, will keep your relatives out of court. It will ensure that they're not left with a complicated mess to clean up and that they can all carry on with their lives, of course with happy memories of you. Now, when developing an estate plan, the following components do need to be considered. Firstly, a will that incorporates testamentary trust. Second, powers of attorney. Third, advanced health directives on death and incapacitation. Fourth, superannuation and insurance nominations. And lastly, business succession agreement. Now, is that clear? Probably not. So it's best to speak to a professional who can ensure you cover all the things that are important to you and that will make sure your loved ones are properly taken care of without stress and complications after you're gone. So what assets are included in the will? Well, a will only deals with assets that are owned by the testator, that is, the deceased person, in his or her own right. Now, only these can be passed on via the estate. And so rather than providing you with a list of what will be included in the will, let's look at which assets will not form part of your will. First one, properties which are held jointly with someone else. Second, assets held in a family trust. Third, assets owned by a company. Fourth, superannuation death benefit proceeds. Fifth, life insurance policy proceeds owned by someone else or another entity. And six, life interests. Each of these areas need to be addressed separately in dealing with your estate planning needs. Your affairs are probably quite complex. You may have a holiday house, you may have assets in various trusts or companies, and complicated financial arrangements that have grown over the years. Therefore, you need to take time to sit down with your financial planner, your solicitor and accountant at the same time to map out what needs to be done. If you do it all at the same time, you get it over and done with. Your goal is the best possible outcome for your estate. Well, that's the end of the segment, but before we go, here is this week's funny finance phrase. Borrow money from pessimists because they don't expect it back. Remember to email your questions in, and if your question is covered on the show, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Money Does Grow on Trees. Val, a copy is on its way to you. On behalf of GRTV, I'm Ziggy, and remember, money does grow on trees. Yassas.